And anime characters love to explain themselves. They announce their goals, describe their powers, and deliver emotional speeches while the music rises behind them. Taro Sakamoto does something much stranger. He walks into the room, looks at the problem, and says almost nothing. Yet somehow we understand him. We know when he is annoyed, we know when he is worried, we know when someone has crossed a line, and we definitely know when his family is in danger. Sakamoto's silence does not remove information. It changes where that information lives instead of listening to his words. We study his eyes, his posture, the object in his hand, the person he moves to protect, and the tiny pause before everything explodes. Silence forces attention, so why does Taro Sakamoto barely speak? And is he naturally quiet? Is silence part of his confidence? Or is it the final habit of an assassin who learned that revealing emotion could get him killed? The answer is all three, and that is what makes him such an interesting protagonist. Before becoming a husband, father, and store owner, Sakamoto was the greatest assassin in the world. In that profession, silence was not simply a personality trait, it was equipment. An assassin survives by controlling information. Every unnecessary word can reveal fear, anger, loyalty, doubt, or intention. If an enemy knows what matters to you, they know where to apply pressure. If they know what you are about to do, they can prepare for it. So the safest professional becomes unreadable. That Sakamoto's blank expression is the emotional version of leaving no fingerprints. It gives opponents almost nothing to use. They cannot easily provoke him because they cannot confirm whether the provocation worked. Shin can read minds, which gives the story a perfect comedy device. From the outside, Sakamoto looks calm and mysterious. Inside, he can be practical, irritated, protective, suspicious, or surprisingly dramatic. That contrast tells us something important. Sakamoto is not silent because he has nothing to say. He is silent because thought and expression became separated during his old life. Shin becomes a translator between those two worlds. He hears what Sakamoto does not speak, reacts to it, and allows the audience to experience the personality hidden behind the blank face. And Shin hears the man behind the legend. At first, that invasion should be uncomfortable for someone trained to control information. Over time, however, it creates a strange form of trust. Shin knows more than Sakamoto chooses to reveal, yet he remains part of the family around the store. Sakamoto begins learning that being understood does not always create danger. That lesson is central to his new life, because his family understands him in a completely different way. Aoi cannot read his mind, but she often understands him better than people who can hear his thoughts. Why? Because she reads the pattern of his choices. She knows who he is not from a speech, but from what he repeatedly does. He came back, he left killing behind, he works in the store, he protects their daughter, he keeps the promises that define their home. For Aoi, Sakamoto's silence is not a mystery requiring constant translation. It exists inside a relationship built through consistent action. That is romantic, but it also creates a risk. When someone is excellent at showing love through action, they can begin believing words are unnecessary. Protection becomes a substitute for vulnerability. Solving every physical problem becomes easier than admitting fear, guilt, or uncertainty. Sakamoto will step in front of danger without hesitation. But can he tell the people he loves that he is scared of losing them? Can he ask for help before a crisis? Can he explain which parts of his past still follow him home? This is where his silence changes from strength into possible armor. And armor is useful when someone attacks you. The problem is that armor does not automatically disappear around people trying to embrace you. Fatherhood makes this even more complicated. To Hana, Sakamoto's quietness can feel safe. He is steady. He does not make every problem about his own emotion. His presence says that the adult in the room is under control. Sakamoto's challenge is not to become talkative. It is to discover when silence protects his family and when speaking honestly would protect them better. Calm is not the same as invulnerable. The series uses this tension for comedy because Sakamoto is surrounded by louder personalities. Shin reacts, enemies boast, customers panic. Other assassins perform confidence. Sakamoto remains almost perfectly still. Comedy often depends on a straight man who refuses to match the madness around him. Sakamoto is the ultimate straight man because his reaction can be smaller than everyone else's setup. A tiny look from him becomes funnier than a paragraph of dialogue. This pattern also makes Sakamoto intimidating. A loud threat tells you what someone wants you to fear. A silent person leaves you to invent the worst possibility yourself. Because Sakamoto rarely explains his next move. His enemies cannot prepare emotionally. They talk, posture, and attempt to control the scene. He watches, then an ordinary object becomes the last thing they expected. His physical fighting style mirrors his communication style. He does not waste motion, and he does not waste language. Both are based on observation, timing, and using exactly what the moment requires. But not every silence means the same thing. When Sakamoto ignores a boast, silence is confidence. When he watches a room, silence is calculation. When he stands beside Aoi without needing to perform, silence is comfort. When he refuses to explain painful memories, silence may be be avoidance. When he places himself between danger and Hana, silence becomes a promise. The character works because the story allows all these meanings to exist at once. Sakamoto does not have one simple reason for being quiet. His silence changes depending on the person standing in front of him. Old enemies hear arrogance, Shin hears hidden thoughts, Aoi sees commitment, Hana sees safety, and the audience sees a blank space and slowly learns how to read it. This becomes especially interesting when people from Sakamoto's past return. They remember the silent assassin, so they assume his quietness means he is still the same person underneath. From their perspective, the store, marriage, and family are costumes covering the legend. They look at his expression and see the weapon they once knew. But identical behavior can come from completely different identities. The old Sakamoto stayed silent, so nobody could reach him. The present Sakamoto can sit quietly with his family because he no longer needs to perform for them. One silence closes the door, the other allows someone to share the room. That is the deeper transformation hidden inside the joke. Sakamoto has not changed by becoming louder or more expressive. He has changed the purpose his restraint serves. In his old life, discipline helped him complete missions. In his new life, discipline helps him keep promises. The face may be the same, but the values behind it are different, and that is why a rare moment of direct speech can become so powerful. When a character talks constantly, one more sentence may not matter. When Sakamoto chooses words, we immediately understand that action alone is no longer enough. The moment has crossed a threshold. The strongest possible development for him would not be a giant emotional monologue. It would be a short, honest sentence delivered when silence would be easier, maybe an admission that he is afraid. Maybe an apology he cannot express through protection. Maybe a request for someone else to stand beside him. The exact words matter less than the choice to become readable, because Sakamoto's greatest enemy is not simply another assassin. It is the belief that he must carry everything alone. So why does Taro Sakamoto barely speak? Because silence once kept him alive. It concealed intention, denied enemies information, and turned emotional control into professional power. But after meeting Aoi and building a family, that silence gained new meanings. It became deadpan comedy, quiet affection, patience, confidence, and a steady presence for the people around him. It also remained a hiding place. Sakamoto's emotional journey is not about abandoning silence. Quietness is part of his personality, and forcing him to become loud would miss the point. His journey is about gaining the freedom to choose what silence means. The assassin was silent because revealing himself created danger. The husband and father can be silent because he feels safe. And when silence is no longer enough, the most courageous thing the world's greatest assassin can do may not be defeating an enemy. It may be allowing someone he loves to hear him clearly. If you enjoyed this analysis, subscribe for more anime psychology, and tell me in the comments, do you think Sakamoto's silence is his greatest strength, or is it the final assassin habit he still needs to overcome?